guess before COVID, no?
You will sitzen.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it. You have maybe a couple of pens here, or? Oh, forget it. I have a pen. Sure. Good. Thank you. I wrote only a few shadows and then I get to come with him. I know the answers. He's researching them. He's going to get. Once you know the answers, it's worth it. I can't stay for long. I'm just going to want to take this opportunity to wish a special Alpha Straight English, Yiddish. Huh? Das war sich. Fast ein größten Jeschekirch für Rabbi selbst und Rav Chassimat für hereinlegen mit Chol Moidam, mit Chol Warum Cholasham und Umstände machen. Der Machen ist nicht nur auf Sur Mera, nicht auf Aseitei. Sur Mera meine ich, ist einmal da a challenge, was ein Mensch hat, a Mann, and he has a problem, he has to deal with something, and he's stuck. And he's all on his own. Even Rabbanim need to consult with another Rav, and if any of us can't talk besides him, the Rabbanim is can't place it very hard like that. So Chassan is just sitting on his own, and there's no misgetters, there's no framework, and sometimes there's very serious issues in Chayva Krisis, whether in Yan Halacha, in Yan Hashkafa, in practice Zachen, in Refuah Zachen, there's no place to turn to. So this Machan that we set up over here is like a Haldig Zach. That's in the Sur Mirah, that when there's a problem, but in the Asay Toiv, not only when there's a problem, you're stuck, and Pikuach and all of that, but then it's Asay Toiv. Chetchilah can the Chazayim besser, the Rebbe that Chamu Eimayel Makodesh Mish Yesh Lemana Reitz Mesayim, but Hashem we have Chassan teachers as Yesh Lemana, and even Mesayim, but Ken Zan Reitz Dalbneis. So, in a Grace Nishkei for Rav Melber, we've been in contact a number of times, had the privilege of meeting him. I'm a big chassid of Torino, I'm sure you know that. You've seen my promotional videos. I don't know how much money you brought in, but so I'm very glad it's taking place. The practice of Shaila, that's kind of the Nisha can sich echt mit sein.
So, I'm just remember because we set up a video on, I guess after the.
It's not live. They could see it later. Okay, because it's a shot. Because the people here would be machlet be'echus. Each one of you. I don't know, so more people could see. Okay, Rabbi, you have to forgive me. Okay.
Shakaya.
Also ich bin nicht weit mit der Hele Chmil, so es ist schon Heschen Ashgacha. Pleasure. Das war alles an, that's a group of
Yeah.
Yes, I don't have direct access to this WhatsApp, but as well as I see the organization, but lately you became a bit...
How could you? We use it myself from all the groups.
I couldn't follow up anyone.
When they reach out to me, I should respond.
Privately, not in the group.
Sometimes they ask me, there's a question that they
need so during COVID, you put in a few strong statements. Okay, let's end the question. Okay.
No?
Which one?
He doesn't get the newsletters.
Might take care of that.
Okay. You'll give him my email address afterwards.
Because they have every month medical updates.
You told me that B'shaita, but I never got it since we started.
We did it. So it's here.
I have to leave in a couple of minutes, so if you have a card or something for the Rob, I'll make sure that he'll make me get it. Or you can send it to me in WhatsApp or an email. Very good. Yeah.
A short example before we get to Rabbi Melber, and about the plans we have on the table for the Machin. I think it's kedai to run it by. It's not official launch. It's really, and we wanted to sit and discuss with Rabbi Melber, and Rabbi Melber is a mine of information that can push it, not only be resourceful, push it, take to the next level, things that we don't do or don't notice. So we decided it's kedai to have veteran chassid teachers part of the presentation, not just from Kasimov, and to know, and then. But together that we just do want to point out some interesting ideas that we have, and if you can take time to process it afterwards and get back to me what you think about the ideas. One of the inyanim that
Sorry, can you just state the name of the rabbanim that are here so that I know
Okay.
Who?
Mendel Yuzevich. This is Rabbi Kasimov.
Yep.
This is
Yisrael Fried.
Yep.
Pesach Shmerling.
Yep.
Chaim Wilhelm.
Yep.
Yehuda Altheim.
Excellent.
You're a fast writer.
Two of them I knew, so.
One of the yanim that I found compiling the document that we put together, and it was a process for me. This is the document we put together between the chassan teachers. Is there's like chiluki days between the chassan teachers in regard to teaching a whole bunch of zaytig. I'm going to call them zaytig gezachen. Like when a chassan gets married, it's not a shtetl anymore, and there's houses that are dysfunctional on a ruchnistic level, not because they're dysfunctional begashmis, but pashut, the kids didn't get the right seer, they left the house, or whatever it is that may bring to that point. And there's things that they should be prepped in regard to sitting by a Shabbos table. Does that become the chassan teacher's project? Does it become to train in basics in chinuch or standards in certain inyanim and kashrus? But he's establishing Yiddish at home, and at the end of the day, the chassan teacher is his go-to.
We argue about that ourselves.
So I got stuck in the middle. Right? So one of the ideas that came up, and I want to thank also Rabbi Wilhelm for facilitating this idea and really took it helping me hash it out, is maybe it's kedai, and I really want to hear what your thoughts are, and beyond even just your thoughts on this idea, but also practical ideas on how to do it in the best way. Maybe to have supplemented videos or podcasts that a chassan teacher says, listen, by the next class, I want you to listen to Kisui Rosh. Okay? Let's say I want you to discuss the Rebbe's take on Sheitels. Even if you give a whole chassan 1 out of 14, I don't know how many classes you're giving, if you cut out one for it, you're still not going to do justice to the Rebbe's shit or family planning. You're going to mention it, but you want to be able to give them the full 9, and you don't have the time for it. So if we would create a closed link for the chassan teachers to, and you can share it with your participants, and you make reference to it afterwards. So that way it saves you a tremendous amount of time. The work is done with you, and he knows you're going to want to hear about it by the next chassan class, or be mashlam after the chasana. It will take off. It will I guess fill in some sort of not blind spots, but and together with that, free up time. So that was one idea that
also be handouts.
It's a very good idea. Thank you. I think that's only going to work if at the very end we're going to get a idea of what they know. Somehow that I believe very strongly to get a test or a mifchan or a quiz or something that you can do it even with the chassan teacher in Indian, but like this they know everything, including these podcasts. So like this, the 10 shiurim that the chassan teacher gave them, plus these 4 or 5 inyanim, and maybe inyanim from Mishal and Bayis and Zugiyut and the relationships and stuff like that, which also a chassan teacher can give just for that. He should learn what does it mean to take care of a wife. A lot of them.
I recently took the mental health first aid course, and they have online checklists. Because really it's very time consuming. If I teach Chsanim to make a mifchan soifi with 100 shilas, not only on the halachas but on all these to fill. Arumi getafis. If
it's 20 or 25 to see that.
It's still.
I think just for the chassan to know.
As is,
I find let's say even the basic ideas, a test. First of all, my rule is by chassan they must chazer after they get married. And you don't learn without chazar is garnish ver. Before the chassan, you're learning without chazar. So I'm not. In other words, even how to make a calendar, or even the. What happens if you miss shkia by a hefsek. Even these are basic shilas.
Right.
A chassan lav dafka is going to have clear that before the chassan. They learn once with the chassan teacher.
Right.
But it's got to be chassan that actually be chassan with the kala after, with the wife afterwards.
Yes.
But even at that, a test before the chassan, first he doesn't have a head for it, and lav dafka he's going to know.
But these videos is a good.
So I want
to have
and that's what
I can go on and watch, and I can click on this topic, on this topic, on this topic.
Some of the young they learned. Do you know?
Yeah.
Another example, another idea that was floated. I think Rabbi Lipsker also mentioned this. That having a test, not in terms of like 50 questions, even 20 questions that they get it in advance. This is what you're going to cover. If you don't know these things, you didn't finish your chassan class. So if they know that this is all chsanim, get it. It's not about doing the test. If you didn't understand one of them, go back to the chassan teacher or ask. You're in the red. So these things this is another idea. Obviously, we would have to collaborate and make sure everybody's comfortable with everything. I mean, the halacha is stuck in shilas, but the way things are worded, I learned to discover I'm saying Befrat over the last document that is very, very nagea, and everybody has to be very comfortable with it. Even
if you look at the chidon with the yados for the kids, how things are worded is
debatable. Right. Okay, I don't want to take. There were other ideas, but I don't want to take more of the time. We have the supposed to have over in melber here. Let me. Projector.
Yeah. I can just ask one question before we start. Yes. How is it now, at the moment, before the future of the Machon? The Chosen teachers in Chabad have Kesher also after the Chazana?
Yeah. With the Chazana? Yeah.
We try to the extent possible what they allow. When it comes to Shalom Bayis, they don't know we say again and again, be comfortable to ask, don't hesitate, and you see a young man, so you don't want to mix into their private life, but you say, like, if you have anything, you can...
Right, but let's say 50% come back when they have issues?
Yeah, maybe 20% I would say, by me. And sometimes I refer them to Talim.
Mm-hmm. So I also want to say that, like, this conversation extremely important, and we hear it elsewhere as well. But I think that it's important to focus. The Nakuda that Tarinu is very concerned about is the Nakuda of what the Rabbanim are talking about is the Chassanim knowing and coming back to the Chassan teacher. Tarinu is very concerned about the Chassan teacher and the Kala teachers having that information, having that most up-to-date information.
To know what's what.
Absolutely, because the reality is that in most cases, even when people, up until a couple has their first child, they're generally going back to the Kala teacher with questions. The woman is going to the Kala teacher, and the Chassan, if he's comfortable with this Chassan teacher, is going back to the Chassan teacher. I think that what we're finding as we travel to communities all over the world is that unfortunately the Kala teachers and the Chassan teachers have very outdated information. Their information is very up-to-date halachically, but in terms of the medical, it's moving in two different directions. And I think it's very important that that's the Nakuda that Tarina comes to focus on, to really ensure that the Rabbanim, the Madrichei Chassanim, the Madrichei Kalas are up-to-date with the information, so that you don't have to rely on
refer to the right address.
And refer to the right address, absolutely.
Not to say, don't worry, it's going to get better.
No. And Chas v'Shalom, that people shouldn't be suffering for years.
I'll take it a little bit market with this, and this is why I asked before. I think a lot of kehillas established today in different communities, it's at Bells, in Square, even in Satmar, for a major point to switch the concept of Medina before the Chazana, to make it for a heavy thing for after the Chazana. As you mentioned before, that not everyone even has the space to capture so much information under pressure, lachas of the Chasna. So they made at least one class, especially after the Chasna, 2 classes, whatever they made up, like 2 months. Some kehillas had like a month after the Chasna, some have 2 months after.
Officially, I want a post Chasna class. Not all of them have to come, but
like after the Chasna, follow up. Official class. What I would say, what Tzvi Goldman just mentioned, is that if the Chuzan teacher, and this is what I found also by Rabbanim, people ask me, why do I need to know? I'm not an expert in fertility, I'm not an expert in this topic, and even intimacy dysfunction, there are therapists, are this and that. As long as they don't know the knowledge, the Chassanim will pick it up, and then they will see, okay, you're not address, I'll try to find someone who is an expert who can help me. But the emphasis is that most people feel much more comfortable, and it's much more effective if they have the local leader, if it's the Rov, if it's the Chuzan teacher, Kala teacher, who started with them, and they already established a relationship to continue, because they will be more open for them, they will be able more to follow up with them. If they really feel that this is an address, and that is our vision, that to provide the tools for the Chuzan teachers. Let's say, we're not going to focus today so much about intimacy dysfunction, but even such a sensitive topic, which is very private, and people do not feel comfortable to call an hotline, even if it's anonymous. On one hand, people do, but on the other hand, they have no shaykhs who it is. Many people, at least, will feel they will only speak to someone they trust fully on the topic. Not only a shkufa, but also they're not going to open such a private topic, some barab. So that's why it's crucial. And we see this Baruch Hashem in the COVID that we had the chance to be in touch with hundreds of Rabbanim and Chosin teachers and college teachers from all over the world. And the feedback was that they felt that they're using this information on a daily basis. It's not like they're adding other 10. Don't get scared. You don't have to add other 10 classes. But you know, first of all, what's the red lights. Whenever, you know when to pick up when there's a question mark, you do need to make sure that you're in touch with them afterwards. You know also how to push in very relevant tips or pieces of information. And when the person feels that at least you know the mesugim and everything, so even if he needs an expert, a doctor, whatever it is, or tarina, but you can still be involved. If you don't even understand the terminology, the people pick it up, so they drop the Chuzn teacher, they drop the Rov. But if the Rov is involved, the Chuzn teacher is involved, it can be mechazik, there's a place of chizik, there's a place of guidance, because you're in the sugya. So basically what I want to go through is quickly, I don't know how much time you want to give me, but I want to go through this presentation, thank you, to basically focus on the latest, this is updates from the last year, more or less, different updates in the medical field, not necessarily just for mitzvah soina, but all different topics, taras and mishpocha and fertility and others, and pregnancy, that I put together. And of course, from one hand, this mitzvah I'll try to make it also relevant, so we can pick up tachlis also right there. I like always to give also practical stuff. You can also ask questions. But before we even start, Arena today, as a concept, we focus on all the topics of Chaye HaMishpocha, which means from before the Chasana, Kalas, to organize, to help, whatever, and then from after the Chasana, including Mrs. Oina, afterwards, of course, Taras HaMishpocha as a major mishtzah of Taras HaMishpocha, and fertility, miscarriages, high-risk pregnancy, and whoever there's a need of contraception, later on in life of menopause, and so on. So basically everything in OBGYN, plus a few other topics which is not including in OBGYN. Basically it boils down to be able to run a Jewish mishpocha with the latest in the field. Now, the focus is definitely a medical. We are focusing very much on technology. The thing about we don't have to explain. The Rabbi said a few times that every technology comes out is for us to use. Some people are, mindset that there's one technology, we can help one person, and that's it. I'll start with a simple example. I think I have it here. If not, it's more relevant for Chosn teachers. I wonder if people use or are aware about the machine, the PVS. Right. In the course and in almost every seminar I give to Chosn teachers, I always speak about this PVS in the last couple of years because I believe this is a game changer in our communities. PVS is for people who have a challenge with ejaculation dysfunction, not erection, but ejaculation. There are many people who have this. I was just a week and a half ago on a conference from the ISSM. The ESSM. It's two associations, international and the European. They had this is like for intimacy dysfunction. They had a very interesting talk that I never heard before. This condition, I don't even have yet any slide on it, and I don't even know the name to pronounce the word. But this professor presented, the European doctor, that some people have an issue with the sensitivity of the nerves on the spot, on the area. As we know, some women have sensitivity of the nerves and they have pain because it's oversensitive. He said some men have undersensitive. The whole thing. The nerves are not enough sensitive. And they can basically have a big challenge. He was talking about 40 minutes of this challenge, of ejaculation dysfunction.
Not to ejaculate.
Why they don't ejaculate. We always used to think it's psychological, right? The person is not enough, the person doesn't understand, the person just that. All of a sudden, it's my time. For me, it was a chiddush. I never heard any ever before. There's a physical issue. In the nerve that some people, the base where they start is completely different than
I knew about
the average.
Reverse ejaculation.
Right.
And
here we talk about no ejaculation
at all.
And the reason should be because of a physical issue.
And
Now,
this machine PVS is
so what is this machine? This machine basically is, first of all, we used it already close to 10 years in the beginning. Probably 8 years ago or 7 years ago, when I got to use it more and more, and it was presented by the ASRM, I had a chance to establish many gemachim, gemach, in different kehillas, in different places in the world, that people should have it. I believe every Madhur Chassanim should for sure use this technology for people who have a challenge. Why? Because what we have at the moment is two main methods. One is psychological methods, right? In psychology, how we treat such a case. And the other one is medication. There's no official medication for that, but we tried. There's some medications that we use, some doctors use. Dr. Michael Werner, I don't know if you, anyone here is using him in Manhattan, but he's a doctor I have sent in the last 2 years quite a few people to him. Michael Werner is in the Maze Clinic. The Maze Clinic is a clinic for intimacy dysfunction.
what's the name again?
Maze Clinic, Michael Werner, Dr. Michael Werner. And he's a guy that he's a urologist, he combines medications and so on. I spoke to him about him having the PVS. What is a PVS? I don't know if I have a slide there, but I can bring up soon a slide. It basically looks like a small device. Imagine a pen, of course much bigger, but it's a kind of a vibrator. Okay, which basically it's not a vibrator who works like the similar we can get in the regular stores. This is for $50, $100. This is $800. It works with people. The company designed it for people who are after conditions where there's no connection, paralyzed people. There's no connection from the second half of the body to the brain, and that machine works for those people to help them to ejaculate, because it gives some type of shocks which goes through the shedra and comes to the brain, because it needs to be a message from the brain. End of the day, we don't
What
know.
is done with that device?
To the practical level, how they use it is to use it before the mitzvah at home, not by a doctor's office.
But to
use
apply
themselves
where? To the Aver?
on the Aver, correct? But then they have relations normally.
So, I mean, just l'shem dugma, l'shem amchasha, how many exist for Mashal in Bar Park?
I don't know. I'll tell you
How many that you
many
brought?
people
10 or 100?
I'll tell you what I did in the last half year in Brooklyn. The people called me. I told them, just buy yourself. You know, when you go to Dr. Michael Werner, I believe you pay even more for one visit, right? So here's the link. Buy yourself one, and you're not going to feel like sensitive. You know, other people use it, even though the top is always new.
Okay.
But still, it's like other machines. Some people are not going to feel comfortable to use a machine that the other person is. Buy yourself. It's private. You don't have to run. You know,
$800.
Give it for a week or this and that.
But
You can open it up.
need it for
I got it for your life.
Lechus Yom.
Is this
Only
a
Lechus Man?
But how do you determine?
Most people use it only
If a
for.
person
How
How many people have you told to buy such a machine? I mean, it's How do you
Tens of
determine if a
Huh?
person
Tens of
has a
people.
physical Tens of people. problem?
Yes,
Okay.
myself in the last year.
How would you determine, Taka, if it's
Maybe it's
psychological, maybe
maybe it's
psychological?
We're talking about Chassanim, mostly we're
of
talking
course, we're
young
talking
men,
right after
healthy
the
men.
chasana. We're not going to say end of Shade Brachas.
They
We
could.
didn't go one day.
Yeah.
Go. But after trying a few times, now the option to go with a psychologist is unfortunately not going to be a quick fix. In most cases, it will be many months. In Kulahai Vu'ulai. Kulahai Vu'ulai. The major solution, which is for years available in every kehillah, is EEJ, which means they skip the whole process and they go directly after a year or two. They go to IVF. They do electronic ejaculation, right? That is available. That what most people do, and after that, or they never come back to it. They never really make time to sign a properly. And or they come back and after a few years,
But you,
they go around to
I just want to
college.
clarify. I think I understood, but just to make sure, this is not talking about people who have erection problems. They only have. I mean, they have an erection. They just
Correct.
don't ejaculate.
Correct.
I'm saying, you want videos for the news?
Yeah, I'm still finished.
I don't want videos. Tzadik. Well, you'll tell.
Yeah, I'll tell.
Want videos for the news site.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, think a second. This solution is the old solution, EJ. It's available, but let's think. Think the.
You take a look at the.
See well.
Bacher.
videos נושא מאוד מאוד רגיש, שלא יהיה שכוח.
Now here's an example I want to highlight. Of course we can always go into more details in the practical, but the concept. We have an old solution. We have a psychological solution. Most people drop out in the middle. If it doesn't work, people give up. You try a month, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. You have the medical solution of medicine that most doctors don't give. I mentioned Michael Werner as a pathologist, but for most doctors, he's a Yuchel Bedoyer who's using it. Very few doctors using medications for this. And if it works, not for everyone it's going to work even. But the main solution, the old main solution for all the last generation was EEJ. EEJ, I don't have to say, that the Rabbi was not happy to fill it with IVF. And if there's a way, even just from the financials, or the Akmas Nefesh, and the practical.
It's done in the lab.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
I think it's $800. IVF is tens of thousands of dollars.
If this can be done at
$800
by the person himself.
IVF not only is not a solution for Shulam Bayis and the Mitzvah Oina, it limits the size of the family always. People don't have, even if they get one organization, 1 child, 2 children, they're limits, and then they can pay it themselves. Another one, it limits always the size of the family. And here, we have a solution whose B'shoyer Shadover goes down to the bottom of the problem, and it's very interesting.
What is the cause for this problem?
Shortcut.
If there's a problem,
this is a shortcut.
But why do people have this problem?
So
yes, he's saying
it's
a medical
thing.
thing.
I got to know about this issue of nerves, but of course there's major psychological issues because we know that it's mainly by the Chassidic community.
Really? In the Welt, in the
much less. It's but the Goyim also they spoke about the ESSN.
But from Yidden it's more.
Absolutely.
So one thing you're saying it's
if you say it's a physical thing that the nerves are mice with nerves.
I said there's an aspect.
I think he's saying is like this.
No question. There's a blockage in the brain that we grew up. This is our tznius.
To be disconnected.
Be against it. That is the basic explanation. But I added another.
I think what Rabbi Melber is saying that this is a machine that's going to bypass. It could be coming from psychological issues, but if you raise the sensitivity, so then it bypasses.
Exactly. And once a person gets self-confidence and the training, 5-10 times, and it works, they drop the machine. Most of the cases, I have 2 people at the moment that I can think that they do it a year already with this. They always
a lot of these things. Once you broke the barrier,
even psychologically, I'm saying
does it cause Zelamatala though?
No.
How does it work?
The bris milah starts there, then it goes to the wife.
The Be'ila they do this or before?
Right before.
Much before.
But the wife is right there.
Correct. So there is, of course, a chance, a risk. The first 2 times, until they found the right timing, how long to do it with the machine. There's also 2 levels to how strong to make it. There's a potential risk of a zeravatula. Right? That's not to say it's never going to be zeravatula.
Okay.
Potential risk.
It's considered a chan limits.
Of course, they're wanting to be machriya and so on. But I'm saying,
was this type of therapy tried with a regular vibrator for $50? I mean, in concept, it should work with any vibrator.
It should.
And that committed, this is free if you get it from Gamach. Trying to save some money here.
Listen, I'll tell you
Post on CRL. First project of this Gamach for vibrators.
I will tell you once, I think it was 10 years ago, I went to the Garadine in Borough Park, what's his name?
Fisher. No, that's
no.
10 years ago.
He was a Russian Koil, I think.
Right, this is the Dine.
He's younger now. The Hunter is younger now.
What?
I know him.
The main Dine, all the years, for 40 years, the Dine.
He's not younger.
He told me, it was 8 years ago, 10 years ago, I don't remember, he told me, I have one machine here, and I give it out. I said, my high.
Yeah.
He said, because I'm involved with the organization's infertility in town.
Yeah.
And I feel that it's not right. Why should people go the IVF route? So they come to me for, IVF. I give them the machine and I saved them.
By Ger?
Yeah. He's 2 halves of Ger.
He's a Klal Chasidi as well in Ger. So I'm saying the concept.
American Ger, that's all he gets. It's not true.
There's a lot of those in America also.
The concept is definitely there that this machine changed a way that we can help people in a challenge which is there.
And the regular vibrator
Let me-
can't do this trick.
For sure, not the same level of effectiveness. Maybe some
But
people.
as a chassan teacher, we
I
can
always
maybe
try with
try
PBS.
this a simple one.
I always try the PBS. Number one, this is the only one who is researched to be helpful. It's researched and it's helpful. Unfortunately, even PBS is not 100% guarantee, right?
Of course.
So there is a concept in psychology that if a person is trying something and he sees it doesn't work, so he thinks it's not going to work, as we say in Chabad, shoved off.
Yeah.
He's
Exactly.
It's opposite.
He sets himself up for failure.
If he feels that he's a lo yitzlach,
Yeah.
then it's not going to work. Even if the machine is not working, he's not going to understand the numbers. Oh, this machine, that machine looks the same. Same thing, by the way, with erection. We always, when someone has a challenge with erection, we recommend to go with the highest dosage for that reason. Maybe some doctors say, why not to start with the lowest dose? Maybe it's going to work. Why do you start with the highest? The answer is just for that. Because psychologically, if someone's taking Cialis, Viagra, and it's not working, the high dose, okay, you say high dose, low dose, it didn't work. I have a problem. I'm different than everyone else. By me, it's not going to work. I don't know, yeah. But if he sees it works, to go down always is possible. He sees that tzlucha, one tzlucha brings other tzlucha.
Shaila, just to put a little bit of context, most of the chassan teachers, I'm saying here in Bechlal, are not planning to become professionals specifically in this area. They would much rather, if they understood the concepts, obviously, to be able to refer and to be able to keep in touch. Are there people that are mafchen that would be able to say this is silent? Even if we'd give it to every case, but are there people available?
I'm not doing ifchun. I'll tell you what I do. People call me up with a challenge. I don't send them to therapists. I send them to PBS. Just themselves, I give them a link. Not I'm against psychology, but unfortunately in our kehillas, I don't believe that people should choose a long way. People don't have the patience, and it doesn't work.
And the money,
the time, and sometimes it becomes a get before they even solve the problems.
Right.
So we need to be having.
This is a simple thing
Quick
that a chassan teacher can advise.
We try quick solutions. Also by female problems, also by male. Again, I'm not saying everyone has to have every much of a sana. It could be one person, but definitely should be here in every place. Someone should have a PBS machine and 50 pieces. They can borrow it. It can be between the rabbanim, between the majich hasanam. It's a concept. Let's go through other topics.
While you're on this topic, the chassan only last week told me he had his first doctor's appointment because he's already married for 2 years and he's having children. So he came and he told me just last week. He says, he's just going to.
Yeah, want to bring that cup of water? On the way back.
There's
He's
one.
right over there.
Is there? What would be the first go-to? I mean, like you said. So I would say go to Tarein.
That's no. Here's you bring me into the slides. Okay.
Thank you.
So that is exactly the first topic, right? Now, infertility is of course today by most people on the main agenda after getting married. They want to make sure everything works. They want to make sure that they are normal people, and they have pressure. Family, it goes a half year, a year. They want to be like other friends or society or people kind of mitzvah.
They want children.
They want children. Yeah. Well, they're legitimate for all the reasons. But people today, as other things, don't have patience, and they want it right now, right here, right now. And they don't understand, of course, and it's not even helpful to explain it medically. It takes a year, that 80% will be pregnant.
I explain it.
Right, it's 2 years.
What's that?
Right, it's 2 years, no? Up to 2 years.
No,
up to 80%
exactly. Is first year, and then
another 10%.
From the 20%,
exactly.
Another 10%.
So here's important that people who are in touch with Hasanim and Kalas, they should know the basics. When there's a red light, when taka, there's no point to wait, or how to maximize in the very basic few points so we can help a person to be like the Rambam says. The Rambam, Derech Pekadech and Bnei Sosko says in this psak like the Rambam, other than other Rishonim, that Mr. Rabbi is machayev to do shtadlas every yoina. This is a few points that we can make 50% more success rate, 50% medically by giving the couple tips. I'm not sure we should tell it to everyone or after the chasal. People nervous. That's up to the type of if it touches hashkufa or not. But for sure, we know one thing is that there can be different challenges. One of them, for example, we'll want to give you an example of a change, which Baruch Hashem we have today, is with the topic of PCOS. People have irregular cycles. There's no point to wait. Someone is skipping a cycle, gets only once in 2-3 months, or the opposite. Some people have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, get every 25 days, 24 days. Those people, if they're just going to sit and wait, they're not going to be in this 80% in a year pregnant, because or they have ovulation before mikvah, or they don't ovulate. It's not good. They have a challenge. Now, in this specific slide, I focus on PCOS. Of 65 to 70% of PCOS are also somehow overweight, or potential overweight, or usually are overweight. The PCOS. It's a whole group of PCOS who are underweight or regular, but the majority is overweight. Now, if they are overweight, it affects, as you see here in the top, that you have instead of having one follicle that grows, you have a lot of small follicles. None of them gets the number 20, which needs to be 20 in the size. It gets very small, it stays by 10, 12, whatever, so it cannot get fertilized. It's not mavushal, it's not ready to get fertilized. So that's a big challenge for those people. They have Taras Mishpocha challenge also a lot of times. They have a lot of breakthroughs, stainings, sometimes yes, sometimes not. Some of them have completely irregular cycles. But one thing for sure is that the ones who are overweight, as you see in the left side, if you can read, that has to do with the insulin resistance. And therefore, for many years, if you look in the book of PCOS in 2018, the ASRM and the ESHRATE, which is the two biggest medical societies in the field, the American one and the European one, they did research. Over 3,500 doctors wrote this book for a few years. So it's considered at the moment the Urim V'Tumim in the topic of PCOS. And they say clearly, yes, of course, diet is first line treatment. They should lose, so they change. If they lose 5%, they change the metabolism. They'll get or naturally more regular cycles and get ovulation, they'll be able to get pregnant, or they'll at least, with some medication, will be helpful. But malasot, it doesn't work. And they say clearly, unfortunately, those people, most of them, they go and die, they don't lose easy. It's very difficult for them to lose. It's a galgal achoizer. Because they have the insulin resistance, they can't lose. They gain quicker and they cannot lose it. So just tell them go and diet, it's a little bit,
unfair.
So they mention over there regarding giving metformin for many, many years. This is a medication from diabetes that doctors use also for PCOS, help them to be able to lose weight. And again, they say clearly, by their research, they have different levels and based evidence, that it's unfortunately not enough effective. I don't remember the exact number if it even reaches to 50% effectiveness rate. So for many people it works, most people it doesn't work. So they left it like this. Okay, so go for fertility treatments. PCOS is indication to go further. A year ago, FDA approved a new injection, Wegovy. Anyone here used ever Wegovy yet? So I
don't think you mentioned this in the...
No,
it's
recent.
It wasn't then. That's only in the last few months that I mentioned that in every lecture. And I put it in the newsletter, probably is, if you get it.
I must have missed that one.
Okay.
I got an email.
So, the Wegovy, in the last few days I'm here, I gave it already probably for 1 million of people. Why? Because I sat with the couples and I saw they are overweight. Not everyone is tremendous overweight, but even if you're not necessarily going to need to take it for a year, but maybe even for 2 months. Because what you need to lose to be able to get pregnant. First of all, what is it? It's injection help, which is approved FDA for losing weight. Men, women alike. So nothing to do. The FDA did not mention anything with PCOS.
Nothing to do with fertility?
Nothing to do with
What does it do?
In 3 mechanisms. It works with insulin resistance. It works of giving a feeling of to be full, and it takes away the appetite. So if someone is taking it together with diet, they lose very quickly. Some research show that it's the same effective as doing operation. Instead of operation. So it's a very effective method. When it came out, like a year plus, I think it was last year January, I was then on a conference to England with a professor who, in the same week, was a conference, and they said PCOS, from today on, we'll give him Wegovy instead of... So I like the fact that...
Instead of metformin.
Not only metformin, instead of IVF, because PCOS, at the moment, it's a big part of the IVF customers are PCOS women. Because they try first the medications, letrozole, 3 cycles, 6 cycles, doesn't work, move on, IUI, IVF, right? They are potential big customers for IVF. But if we help them to take away the problem is they have insulin resistance. they don't have a good ovulation, they don't have a quality of egg, and there was also lately a few months ago, 2 months ago or 3 months ago, in Shaare Zedek Hospital, a young Iman, a whole day for doctors, on the topic of overweight with infertility and miscarriages.
PCOS is caused by overweight. It's a
It's
symptom
made.
of PCOS.
Correct.
So by losing weight, the PCOS problem won't necessarily be.
That is 100% true. Meaning that we don't have at the moment, unfortunately, a cure for PCOS. It does not exist any medication, either this. If they will stop, for example, and 2 years later they'll be back. In other words, this is also not curing. It's not like they take this for 2 months, they have a guarantee to be on the weight now. That helps to lose for the time they are on it. Of course, to take back, if they lose it, they take it for a half year, they can get pregnant, first of all. So, I was 2 weeks ago in England, and I gave a presentation for the Rabbonim in Stamford Hill. One of the Rabbonim sent me an email a few hours later from the local paper. The week before, the NHS approved it for everyone. This is in America $1,600 a month. NHS approved it. It's covered. Public means that they so much believe in it that they give it out now for free. It's a lot of money also over there private. They approved it. Here, unfortunately, it's not yet in most insurances. Some insurances do have it already. Now what we use, and it's true we don't have it yet, but we do have something similar, and that is something which is much cheaper, and we use that one. So that is so we have Succended, it's a daily one, every day. It's also available in America. Wegovy is once a week. Then we have the
Daily also injection? Also injection.
Correct. And then we have the Ozempic. The Ozempic is the cheap one, the old one, which is a medication for diabetes. And that is available everywhere in the world. That's for years we use it for diabetes medication. The head of Dr. Yoel Toledano, who is the head of Mukheret endocrinologist in Israel, for almost 2 years, every medical conference on fertility in Israel, he takes a lecture on this topic. That doctors, every gynecologist, should give out Ozempic for PCOS women. He said, I'm the endocrinologist, right? Dealing with the hormones. I'm telling you, if you take Ozempic, you'll minimize the use of IVF. It's going to be healthier, quicker. Use Ozempic. He's giving it out to everyone, and he tries to educate the doctors to use Ozempic. So that's basically what, at the moment, also here, people don't have money to pay $1,600 a month. This is, you can get sometimes for $150.
Even $1,600 a month would be shaloi berach to IVF, even without the Rebbe's hesitation.
Yesterday I told a couple, take it for even maybe 2 months, get money for 2 months, and that's so overweight, but you are overweight, you have 6 miscarriages. Miscarriages is very related to overweight. It was published in the Fertility Sterility, which is the main magazine of fertility in the world. It's an American magazine, medical magazine for the doctors for fertility. They published this here research. It's, I think, 75 or 80% higher risk for miscarriages. Someone is overweight. It's a major factor. Bring this down before you get pregnant. You change not only the quality of the egg, all the cells in the uterus, and so on. It makes a huge difference. Again, it's just to show idea. This is a
Now
simple
these things
idea.
are not over the counter. All these things you need.
Correct.
A
You don't
prescription
need a infertility specialist. You don't even need endocrinologist.
for. A regular
People
doctor.
get it from regular family doctors.
Would it be
But
helpful?
if I as a chassan teacher or a rav will tell a couple these eights, I tell them go to your doctor and
Your local doctor, of course.
the doctor's not just gonna give that. He says, you have to speak to
Right.
an endocrinologist and this. No
the
doctor.
other
The Rav said that this. The Rav was saying, Rav, ich bin the doctor, and
So
First
that-
thing he said,
don't tell me what I should give
that
the woman
is
a prescription.
That is a very important hakduma, b'chalal, of this whole concept of the relationship between refuah v'halacha. In a way, it is a dangerous spot. Meaning to say, some doctors are going to be sensitive, and they will be nivga. You know what I mean? And they won't. But I can tell you, it's true. It's a big chashash, but it depends on 2 things. Number one, the way how the couple presents, the way he comes to the doctor. I always make sure, every time we go, please make sure when you speak to the doctor with their cheretz, ask as a question, not as my Rebbe said, this is what you give me, here's my shopping list. Hell, I heard other doctors giving this. Is it relevant for me? Do you think that it might be effective? Most doctors, it's a shayla, they can agree. If you tell you must give me, nobody, I don't must give you anything. Number 2, I was invited here by Borough Park OBGYN 5 years ago. The Schwartz Group, right? It's the biggest clinic in Borough Park. 15 doctors sitting around a big table over there. I wasn't ready what they wanted, they called me in for a meeting, I came. The medical director, he started the conversation saying, listen, our doctors here, getting patients every day from Tarenu, they're more educated than us. Absolutely. And we have no problem, I want to make clear, he said, we have no problem. We love the fact that people are educated. We Google it in a second, we see, yes, it's guidelines of the AHEL, ASRM, ASHRAE, we find it in a minute. We're happy to give. Of course, Tarenu educates only things which is, this is medical information from the medical societies in this field. It's just the fact that it's true that most doctors don't yet know about it.
How come? Why?
Because doctors
They're not doing their homework.
This is one aspect in what they do the whole day. This is a zaytig.
Especially a family doctor. It's not their product.
They are focused every day in the clinic. They don't have time to go every week. We go in Tarenu every week to some medical conferences, physically or online. And to bring this knowledge, and everyone today, this is a big challenge why you have multidisciplinary centers, right? This concept of because everyone today, because medicine is so big, it becomes impossible. Everyone has their own niche, what they know, and most of the doctors are more clinics, they know one tchum more or less, whatever. So when it comes to this point, which for us
I'm
is
not
crucial,
a doctor, and I'm very interested, and I always want to know more and more and more, and I read and I hear and I listen.
But this is the change.
The doctor
Would
has
it be-
to
would it
have
be-
that.
Okay, he didn't come to fire for every doctor.
No.
Let me just ask something else. Would it be kedai for us as a kehillah, let's say Crown Heights specifically, to sit down with one of the doctors and then recommend for all explain him what is available in the market for the and why for IVF men and them understand our place in IVF. Many laboratory rabbanim are very hesitant.
I love this
and
idea.
then we'll just tell him for any of these issues he's the doctor.
Yeah, you need a liaison. You need
A
someone.
liaison, and he's
This
go-to.
is not only smart, this is effective. Because if we have doctors who know who's behind, okay, I had a meeting with Dr. Michael Werner. I did not send people before him. Not only because I knew of him, but when the doctor also knows the other person from the other side, he can be also open-minded, even when he did not hear before, or even if he understands it's not suitable, and we do feel in our experience and our knowledge from other doctors, whatever it is, that it is going to be effective, they should be open-minded, and he knows they
He'll listen differently.
Exactly. So this is a crucial point for the tzluch of such a project, and we did in many cities, to sit down with at least a few doctors, even to map out who are the key doctors. It could be family doctors sometimes.
It can be a PA.
I'm saying it could be even a smaller doctor. It could be Dr. Plout, let's say. And people for this specific Indian, you send to Dr. Plout, for example. I'm saying even smaller, not the central doctor.
That will be very effective.
PA in Williamsburg.
Esti, Mrs. Sloan?
Yes.
No, so she's a PA?
She's
She's involved in PUA. She's very involved.
Of course, I know.
Yes.
I know. She's from the
Yeah.
PUA course many years ago.
She's a good liaison.
So she took the course as well, right? I spoke to her 2 weeks ago about doctors in Williamsburg, doctors in Crown Heights. She gave me a list of doctors. I told her I want to meet these doctors. ODA, I want to meet doctors here. I want to meet. I myself.
ODA is very big. ODA is now also Dr.
ODA.
Rosen's office is
gonna
being bought off by ODA.
Yeah.
Right. So she told me this, and the fact that when we meet in person is a different world, for sure, 100%. So let's continue on a few updates. AMH. This is a blood test. Simple blood test. Any family doctor can give a referral for that. This can help us to know what's going on with a couple if they have irregular cycles. Eventually, every woman who has an irregular cycle calls on Tarenu. We recommend to do this test. The reason why we recommend to do this, I got yesterday a Rov in Muncie who left me a message. A woman, a couple, the age of 21, and they unfortunately start to get irregular cycles. They have one baby. They got now very irregular cycles, not nursing anymore. Went to the AMH, extremely low. And what do you do with this couple? First of all, we know that they have POI, primary ovarian insufficiency, which means, unfortunately, her reserve of the eggs is very small. It's like a woman at the age of 40. Even she's 21, unfortunately. It happens. It's about 5% of the population who has this.
5%?
That's POI, not the 21. 21 is 1%. But POI, you can have
Thought
it
it's
at
less,
26, 26,
Yeah.
at 28, at 32. But you can
Yeah.
have it on the way. By knowing it,
Secondary infertility is often.
major, of course. Now, what is the idea that we know? So, on one hand, yes, those people, first of all, maybe with the heterodragonum, they should do preservation to freeze.
To use
That's
for later.
one option. But even if not, I sat in this week with a few couples. I told them, I'm not sure Europe is going to give you that. Well, one thing for sure, you do it, now you know that you don't have time for spacing. Maybe otherwise, you know, you would like to do at least 2 years to get through the process, but you for sure want to have at the minimum 4 or 6 children. So, you know, you
got to work for the next couple of years.
You need to rush because there's no time. Or you know that you need to
that still might not work.
You need to do every year a test at AMH. Usually it does not drop in 1 month. It stays, let's say,
It does go up?
0.8. No way, unfortunately, at the moment. It will be changed in a few years, whatever. But
with the type of people it's going to be changed in a few years, is that
other
in the book?
point?
I dealt with a young woman who her cycles were like 10, 12 weeks apart. Every 2-3 months she had a period, but pretty regular. So they went to one doctor. The doctor said probably PCOS,
Correct.
but it didn't present like that. The girl wasn't overweight. It didn't have other so I recommended to do AMH, and it was fine.
Came back high?
Huh? Yeah. She was fine.
PCOS.
She just has
PCOS.
What the terex? No terex exists.
no that's so the doctor said it's fine.
If
When she gets married,
Kupitas.
huh?
Kupitas, you have Gemeinis every 90 days. That's
Yeah.
if a woman has a high AMH, above average, that is one of the symptoms of PCOS. And today, more and more doctors believe that in the next year or two, they will switch the guidelines how to diagnose PCOS, and AMH is going to be the one to diagnose.
A factor, yeah.
Okay, so it's important because it helps people to have more children, to know, at least to know what to make the plans, and sometimes, unfortunately, they will have to go for treatment. Okay, here I'm just explaining the AMH, what it is, the hormones, okay. Now, I have another couple, also in Muncie. Unfortunately, a month ago when I was here, I spoke to the father of this young it's his daughter, that she knew before the chasana that she has irregular skipping periods. They thought PCOS, you know, people don't
Sometimes it's just diet.
right, and people don't do anything. Unfortunately, after the chasana, a year, they went AMH 0. It's gone. Shami Rachel.
Why can you check before the chasana?
Everyone checks before the chasana?
No one checks.
No, but somebody who has irregular cycles.
Everyone is irregular cycles checked. This is
No,
a question.
but
I'm not sure it should be that way.
A young lady that the mother turned to me, if that's, you know, she was starting shidduchim and how, you know, is this a concern? I said, do an AMH test, and then it's a problem. So the doctor said, okay, you can wait enough the chasna, we can regulate with the pills and get you on a regular cycle.
I'm not a place gadol, but I tell people that if they miss a year, some people unfortunately only once a year, then they need to do the AMH. And if they do have AMH, high AMH, it can be calm, they don't have to say.
Right.
But to say for everyone who's missing 1 or 2 months, not sure. Because
she knows for the last 2-3 years.
Over there, definitely
2 or 3 periods a year.
Or even the chazukah. Oh, yeah.
So the AMH comes back and says if you're
What's the reserve?
and you're gonna be okay.
No, it's halacha to go out.
At least they know they have
hide
time.
this
At least they know they
information
have time.
and then
So
find
it's
out
not
not
going
to
down. Time is not ticking.
What I told this father is about, they went to Canada, they went to do the IVM. I don't know if one here knows about the technology of IVM, taking out eggs a little bit earlier. I told him, unfortunately, IVM is known not to be so successful. What it is working at the moment, thanks God, Baruch Hashem, a new technology in the last year and a half. It's called PRP, available in Manhattan, available in New Jersey, and Baruch Hashem, we have it already also in Israel. Comes from Europe. It's the platelet-rich plasma, as you see. It's a plasma treatment. very simple, cheap treatment, cheaper than any other thing else, and it works. Not for everyone, but it works even from 0 AMH. Not to bring up the AMH, but to bring still eggs. How they do it is basically they figure out, they take from the woman, take out blood, they take out the plasma of it, 2 hours, they inject it back in the ovary of the woman. So there's no other people involved. It's the only.
And that produces new eggs?
No. There's no new production.
No,
That's
a variation.
That they didn't figure out yet.
Eggs.
For what? By a man, he produces new sperm.
Right.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. When the baby is being
That's
developed in the mother's womb,
get to
it's
that.
the ovary.
You don't need the mother's
that
womb.
We'll get to that soon. But
What-
the
what
idea
does
of PRP is, as I heard once the professor of RMA New Jersey explaining it, is that there are some between 100 to 200 cells of eggs who are very sleeping there, and regular hormones won't wake them up. This plasma has the koyach to wake him up, so it's there. Obviously, she was born with this. It has a koyach hamoire. How they figure this out? There's a time of whether if he escaped this knowledge for a doctor in Greece, and I was
Some people are using the brain.
I was last week in touch with a woman in Harnov, the age of 52, second marriage. She wants to have
A baby.
a baby. She went to Greece a few weeks ago. She made herself the research, and her AMH is not yet completely out. So he agreed to do it. I think they charge €8,000. And
Why not?
she did it. I don't know yet if it's going to be a issue or not. I'm just saying. I spoke to her actually this week Sunday. She was there a few weeks ago. She doesn't know the results if it's going to be effective or not. But definitely PRP for young people. Most places, at least I know in RMA, they don't take this age anymore. Most places in the world they don't take.
Old people.
They only take young till the age of 40. But if we know someone has a low AMH or 0 and a young, of course we need to direct to these type of things. This is really high-end infertility. I'm not saying this is just like it's a presentation to show a little bit very refused. It's not a seminar. The designs are just from Jicha Hassan.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go this one. This is again also it's a breakthrough in medicine of the Chesed Hashem and nothing to do with regular Chusn teachers. But it's called IVG. And I was in Baltimore 3 months ago for the ASRM conference. That was the topic for 2 days, the main topic. And in the newsletters, whoever signed up,
How do we get the newsletters?
just sign up. You go on the website, just sign up.
We'll send a link.
Every month. What's that?
We'll send that a link.
Yeah, or send it to Goldman emails from everyone. They'll sign them up. So I put it out because even if it's not yet available, but we know, and this is the way how they presented it, that we know 100% the FDA will approve it in the next few years. The technology is already in use for IVG. So what it is, it's going to be a cure for fertility. You just said before, if someone does not have eggs, at the moment, there's nothing to do, unfortunately. But IVG is a solution. Even people, unfortunately, who have cancer, and it's wiped out if they did not do preservation, or they were born with major genetic problems, or the AMH, the RPOI, they did not know and they didn't catch it on time. IVG, that would be the solution. IVG is basically, in plain simple words, as you see here, it's a baby from skin. Baby from skin means that we understand today what is the whole concept of Shloisha shit from bottom. What we know today is 23 chromosomes plus 23 chromosomes. That's 46 is a cell. That cell is doubled. And once we know this technology, and Hashem gave in 2016 the genome, not the information about the whole genome of a person, we have a technology called CRISPR, which is gene editing. And
Genetic.
CRISPR is the one basically who helps to take a piece of skin of the ovary or from the testicle and create from that a cell. It basically, it's a whole lump. It turns it into first to a stem cell.
Stem cell, yeah, it's got to be.
Push this back 3 steps, so it gets a cell as it was a part of a cell before it was.
Right.
And
Before it was
then
identified,
they
it was
redirected. So they use
before
the
it was-
technology is already in over 1,000 clinics in the States used, not for fertility but for cancer. It's exactly the same technology. It's just illegal at the moment yet, not approved FDA for infertility.
But they approved it for cancer.
For research for cancer. It's not even in the clinics for, but over 1,000 clinics got approved FDA for research, so we use it. We use it also in Hadassah and Yerushalayim. 6 countries already use in day-to-day this technology. It's new.
You don't need to get married anymore.
Unfortunately,
Correct.
this is what they said over there. Man, woman. I say the hashkucha that we use for fertility treatments will be much, much more required. Because the hashkucha that going to be with this new technology will be
It's the thing that
by far more.
you can decide how you want your baby to look like. This is the whole.
That's the next step.
Yeah.
That's genetic engineering.
Genetic engineering.
This topic exactly means that when they spoke about FDA approval, they said they will have to put a set of
Rules.
rules and laws because they said clearly you can do this for a woman at the age of 95 years old. Now all of a sudden, Romania will be every day.
It's already now in Manhattan. When you see somebody pushing a baby carriage, you don't know is that the father or the Zeta? Because people are doing things so late in life.
It's going to, of course, require the shkucha more on these topics. But
was it already? I see there's some mice on this. Was it already done?
It was done
By
illegal
mice?
one time in China, and even
And a
in
human
China,
or a mouse?
Two
and a
sheep,
woman,
no?
and
A human being?
sheep went to jail, even in China, 3 years ago. So, but it will be even more. That's not going to be a additional to IVF. That will replace the whole IVF.
Wow.
That's what they say.
Interesting.
We'll bring in new chashushas and new sigis and halucha.
If you kill such a child, is that your tzich or is like you keep him on Shabbos? Shall I know to me? Zochad in the cave. Who knows what kind of creature this is?
It will be a very good childless, but on the other hand, it's not their party.
It's
not their party.
Yeah,
it's their own DNA. It's their own.
Right. It's the mother's DNA, the father's zera.
It's the matzumai. It's their own whole material. It's going to make it full of shkuchas, and that level, it's easier than people today, unfortunately. Do sometimes from others.
Yeah.
So that's definitely
good.
Next, recurrent pregnancy loss. A very complicated, very common problem people have miscarriages. Miscarriages, it's not a new problem, but thanks God there's new solutions. Anyone here ever used Braverman's group, Manhattan, in Long Island? Right. So, miscarriages, many causes which can cause why it happens in miscarriage. Years ago, we thought everything is unexplained. Continue. But we did not know the kalim, how to prevent other miscarriage to happen. And many families, unfortunately, struggled not with 1 or 2, but with 6, 8, and more miscarriages, which made it very limited to the size of the family, very difficult emotional, from bias and everything. Now, Baruch Hashem, this is a field which is very developed. The workup, what to check, what to investigate, is not complicated, and we do this in day-to-day, probably 20 times a day in the Torino hotline. Educate people. They can do it with the local gynecologist and many of the things with local family doctor. Do the workup first of all. Let's look in, because if we see, for example, the TSH, right, one of the hormones, is not balanced, either it's high or low, that can be a cause. What I want to focus is on the treatment level. Now, bleeding in pregnancy, for example. Bleeding in pregnancy is a big debate what we can do. Can we do, there's a lot of research in the last few years that we can have many more babies. Just in the last year came under research in England, they said if everyone who is bleeding in pregnancy will take progesterone, they will have 8,500 more babies a year born in England. That's their cheshbon. You can say they made the research how effective it is.
Bleeding due to what cause?
Good question.
But if you stop the bleeding,
even without knowing any, just there's nothing to lose.
Nothing dangerous. Do it.
Nothing to do. Hematoma, unexplained, whatever it is. Using the progesterone is a major important tool. Now, which type of progesterones? Let's skip on this.
But they do it already. The doctors already do it. No?
Some do.
There's a symbol for low progesterone.
So
the matter.
This is very interesting. That in the course we go into all the details, but one of the major basic guidelines we have from Professor Karp and other major experts in the field is not to even check. It does not make any difference. Even if it's not low, it's high. There's no way to know. This week Sunday we had Professor Asher Bashiri, the Shem Shabbos, Makura, he's in Be'er Sheva Soroka Hospital. He is a leader in the field, a global leader in miscarriages. And I had him this Sunday to teach our 6D advisors of miscarriages. He said also the same concept. We know for years there's no way to check progesterone. He's a very big fan of progesterone, specifically the type of digesterone, which is not available in America. But the idea, he said, because it goes up and down 20 times a day. So how can you check? You see it's high, you don't know if it's really high. You see it's low, also you don't know.
Could be only for that minute.
So you need to give it anyway. There's nothing to lose, and when you give it in at least between 30 to 40%, you can save. You can prevent the miscarriage. It's something again that local doctors can give it, local PAs can give it. It's true, but the couple needs to know Shalas Chuchim Kutzi Tshuva. If they know to ask, they're usually going to get it.
So, but they have to be already the matzah that they had miscarriages to ask for it?
Or they have bleeding.
Yeah,
Or
well,
they have
bleeding.
active bleeding. The reason why we don't give it, you will ask a good question. Why don't we give it for every pregnancy? He asked the question himself, Professor Bashiri this week.
Expensive.
In his lecture, no. He said because in medicine we don't treat prevention.
Exactly.
Exactly.
If there's bleeding on and if they never had a miscarriage before,
We do it, absolutely. Right away we give the progesterone.
Yeah.
Till week 12 or till week 20, 100%.
That's a regular doctor to give it.
Of course. Endometritis. This is a type of infection. If you go to Columbia Hospital, Dr. Zev Williams, you probably heard his name because he's the #1 in New York for RPL.
Columbia?
From Dr. Manhattan, Shem
What's the
Shabbos,
name?
the
Dr.
couple.
what?
Zev Williams, right? He has an RPL clinic that if you make an appointment is usually after 9 months you get an appointment. Now I want to tell you a surprise. One of his big things he's doing is checking everyone for endometritis. In 2014, there's a group in Chicago who made a lot of research of RPL, a big clinic. They came up, there's a simple infection that there's no symptoms, no pain, no bleeding. A woman will never know herself if she has it unless a doctor went in with a camera inside in the uterus with a stroscopy and with a camera to see if it's there. Now, they showed clearly, there's a lot of research since then in Europe and everywhere, that endometritis causes miscarriages. And it's very common, this infection. But if you don't check, you don't know.
And the infection only happens during pregnancy, or it could be?
No, infection has nothing to do with pregnancy, but it
could be there.
It could be there.
And how do you take care of it?
You're not born with this. It's not genetic, but people develop this. Many people develop this in their some
point in life.
Time in life, exactly. Now, what is the good thing about this one? Because here, you see this small bottle. This is the Lexiclan. This is the medication.
It's a pill.
It's a pill. It's antibiotics. That's all what it is. A treatment. It's a major challenge of miscarriages and a simple treatment. So you don't have to wait 9 months to get this medication. Now you need someone who knows to make hysteroscopy. You can go to Borough Park, Dr. Scott Chudnoff, the head of the Maimonides. Scott Chudnoff, he's doing it. It's also at the moment a little bit longer waiting list, but he's bringing in more doctors. He's having a unit now with minimally invasive gynecology. It's going to be more and more available, the hysteroscopy over there. He can do it.
He takes antibiotics.
Dr. Josh Klein is doing it. A lot of doctors are doing it. Whoever is doing hysteroscopy can check for this. You don't need to wait 9 months or a year for Zev Williams because he's named to RPL. Right? We do it everywhere in the world. It's just one idea. It's, again, a major challenge. With the Baruch Hashem, we have simple solutions. I had yesterday a couple who unfortunately don't have yet children, 8 miscarriages, in the middle of IVF. Right? I told them, who told you to go for IVF? Why, for 8 miscarriages, go for IVF and you do PGTA? That is not in the workup, not in America with the ASRM, not in Europe, not in Canada, not Australia, not in Israel. There's not one country who has this as a solution.
It's not a protocol.
It's not a solution.
And you told them to do this?
I told them let's do the whole workup. I went through the workup, which she did. She did not do the full workup, which is recommended in America by the doctors. Now we can find usually 2-3 topics to fix. That will be much more effective than doing IVF. Now, IVF, forget about the money and everything else, but it's not just effective. It's just not even a solution. If it would be a solution, no. But it's not a solution. And she did already 3 times transfers and it doesn't work. She's still miscarrying, of course. That's why, unless there's a problem in balance translocation, which means they do, of the parents, a genetic test for specifically one thing, balance translocation. If they see they have balance translocation, then IVF will be a solution. That's less than 5% when people have miscarriages. So 95% of people, IVF won't even help. But She went to an infertility specialist. I told her, you go to a bakery, you don't expect. She tell you, it's not a grocery. You know what I mean? The IVF center sells babies through IVF. That's what they know. They specialize. So they think that IVF, but they're not specialists in miscarriages. It's a subspecialty.
Can I ask a kind of Ben Shail? Is there a document of Tareinu where let's say for a chassan teacher that learned a whole bunch of musagim, but like if there's bleeding during pregnancy, these are the names you have to keep.
Q&As, a bunch of Q&As.
Yeah, I don't know, Q&As or
Resource sheet.
it's obviously going to be updated as long the whole time.
So we have one of the.
Is the newsletter the key to this?
The course. I would like that everyone to take a full course, print out the book of 600 pages, the whole book, and to have it because
the slides from all the
whole slides
from all the courses.
To make a book, and everyone should have it. Now you're not going to remember always everything.
I go back to these.
Exactly,
slides.
you can go back. You're not
I
going
didn't print it out. I have it on the computer.
Okay, but you're not going to have every day.
I'll lend you the paper.
Everyday miscarriages.
But not the toner.
You're not going to have everyday miscarriages, but you will have once a month, once in 2 months. You open them to this. That's not a big deal. And you tell them this is the 6 topics that we need to check for. Here we go. It takes exactly 15 minutes to go through with a couple, as we do in Terrain Hotline. Everyone can be the Terrain Hotline.
Do you have a Terrain Hotline around here?
Of course.
It's global. It's a global service. We do this every day. Yes, when I met, for example, Dr. Ronit Friedman at Food Health Center in Muncie 4 years ago, and Mr. Sternberg, the CEO, asked me, what are we missing? Which type of dye? I said, miscarriages. You don't have an expert for RPL. Let's bring into Muncie an RPL clinic. Dr. Ronit Friedman told me, you know what? I'm not an expert. I'm just a regular OBGYN, but I'm willing to give you a tool. We don't have an RPL expert, which probably will take a lot of years to get an expert. Let me give you whatever you bring the protocols and trust you. Send them to me. I'll give them the medications. I'll send them. I do astroscopy. I'll help them. Here's an interesting halukha question, but this is like real from the last couple of years. Less than 4 years is major research on this, that the male factor can be a major issue of miscarriages. Male factor.
It's half and half almost, no? Could be.
That's true.
Miscarriage?
You're talking about fertility.
Fertility, yeah.
No, I'm talking about
miscarriage.
Miscarriages.
fertility is
What's
more.
the shot? Once she's already pregnant,
Exactly.
it's
But
his
very
DNA.
pregnant. So it's a DNA fragmentation index, the DFI test, right? Which in
Let us say this here.
right, this turns out to be very common. Not only at the age of 40, which is of course much more common, but every person to get more percent of the sperm is fragmented, broken. Whereas some people in the even age of 25 have 90% broken. Mm-hmm. And the good news is, the solutions for this medically, the first line medication is.
But that's
a set
probably
of
only
6
early
vitamins.
miscarriages.
What's that?
That's probably early miscarriages.
Okay, this is a majority, first of all, number one, and not so sure. But this week, Professor Asher Bashiri, I liked very much his approach, although I don't do this way. I'll say how I do it. He said, when a couple comes into him, it comes to Shaz and Halacha, he's telling them, don't check anything, just here's the list of vitamins I want you to take for the next 3 months. Because if they will see it's fragmented, solution will be these vitamins. Instead of sending to, they said, I don't know if the roof is going to be matter. No, I'm giving him the vitamins. It'll take me anyway 3 months now to make it work up with the woman.
That's all that is?
And
Just
the next,
vitamins?
what's that?
Just vitamins?
That's one of the 4 treatments, right? The basic. The reason why I don't do this way, so in our protocol, in Terrain protocol for the devices, we designed it that we don't give it after 1 or 2 or 3, only after 3 miscarriages we bring up this topic. Go speak to the raw. The reason why, because unfortunately the vitamins is not always effective. So
He said it's only 1 of 4 things.
Correct, but I want to be able to say, if it's not effective, let's consider maybe to do a very prepared if they have to go check it out. Maybe, unfortunately, if it's still not effective, consider other, like including IVF or IUI with Hello Sperm, whatever treatments.
But why would that be needed?
That's a lot of research with ASRM. That this is
causes the fragmentation of the sperm.
Yes. Now, IVIG, I mentioned before Braverman's group. People who had 6, 7, 8 miscarriages, right? And they did the workup. They went to Professor Zev Williams. They went to Victor Rosenberg. This is the 2 names, right? In miscarriages here in New York. What else? Unfortunately, not too much. They don't give anything else. One of the only places in New York and in the world where they treat is about IVIG. That is a medication which, Baruch Hashem, we have it. It's a very extremely expensive one. It can cost almost close to $10,000, but it's effective. Not for everyone. It's for many, many people who had a lot of miscarriages. They use this medication one time before they got pregnant, and one time once they're pregnant.
$20,000.
No, it's in total. It's like $2,500 each time, plus consultation, plus workup, and this and that. What is it? It's a miyun therapy. So some doctors like Rabbi to do a workup for miyun for the worth of a few $1,000s. They always find if you look so much, with
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. Tareno has the hotlines and the guidance. If I deal with a couple that has recurring miscarriages, if I just refer them to Tareno will guide them along these lines.
That is true. But if you also know, for example, what IVIG exists, right? The couple here, let's say from Tareno hotline, listen, in your case, we believe that IVIG is your treatment. Yeah, they'll call out, they'll hear the number from Rabbi, they'll put down the phone, get Shabbos, they don't have. If the roof knows, this is your treatment, okay, call Tareno, come back. Let me hear what they say. They say IVIG, okay, you gotta help them, or from family, or from friends, or from Tzedakah, from the Kuppah Sa'ir, help them get the money, right? You can be mechazikin. It didn't work. It's needed. You can be mechazikin. It comes to, they tell you DFI, you say 1 second, it's Shal Nalucha. You know what means DFI. You know it involves the Shal Nalucha of the Gezerah. And you know that maybe you can give even vitamins without, depends how many years after the chasana, you make your shukal, how many miscarriages they had, if they have time, you can be involved.
And also,
the idea basically what you said before is, if you do the full course, every chusn teacher, it's not like we want them to be a doctor, either we are also not doctors, but we can then know, first of all, when to direct, how to educate, and when to switch from one doctor to others. This doctor, I'm not going to say the name, but he's one of the most popular doctors. The one from, I said yesterday, eight miscarriages. The one who's doing now the IVF for this lady is one of the most popular doctors in the IVF in our community here in Manhattan. Right? He's not bad, obviously. I also work with him every day.
But after her.
But if you would know that miscarriages, what is to do, you'll say, yeah, he's a child, he's there, fine. But for this topic, that he's not the address, he's just with the wrong address. You just need to go to an expert. You know what I mean?
I think reiterating that the fact that he relies on the chassan teacher, he brought him to chasnos, and he's guiding him. Even if you will refer him to Tareno hotline, the fact that you believe, you say it has a high success rate. I know people that did it, and he relies on you. It doesn't just shut the phone. It's very.
I checked with another. There's an organization called for Bris and Nefesh. What's the name?
Shamas.
What's that? But the biggest organization in the world for mental health.
From organization?
Yeah, they have a lot of 15 branches. No. The R.
I know. It's
Relief.
Relief.
Right.
No.
Relief.
Yeah, Relief. Okay.
You know what Relief is? It's a mental health referral company. This is what they do.
Yeah.
They came to my office a few months ago. The guy who runs the branch in Schlein. I asked him, tell me, I have an interesting question. You do referrals. You do follow-ups. How many people are really going to the referral? You send them to a specific expert. That's what they do. Referrals.
Yeah.
This is your expert for this topic. We check after 6 weeks. We call back everyone. We know 1 out of 10
really
went to the doctor. You're talking about someone who reached out to Relief.
Yeah.
Wanted help. They got a referral for an expert. And investment. I'm claiming that most people, when you send them to a Tareno, it's probably the same. Maybe not out of 1 out of 10, but out of probably 20% call. And the reason for that, the reason for that, because as Ruf said before,
I asked guys after, they gave me good advice. No.
You did it?
No.
You went to the doctor? No.
We'll wait, we'll see. We'll wait, what will you see?
I spoke last week to Chushev Rebbetzin there in New York. Tremendous stress about Tahara. It's taking over her life, anxiety and everything.
She's helping other people.
And she's a big Rebbetzin, very popular here in New York. And I gave her a few solutions of Tahara.
Oh, for herself?
For herself.
Oh.
She's in the 50s. 2 days later, her Ruf calls me. And instead, he gave medicines. She wants only vitamins. Personally, you should tell me this before. Number two, we are a medical hotline. We're not a health food store. I do give out some vitamins.
We spoke once. You don't hold too much from vitamins.
Correct.
He's a medical guy.
That's it.
I'm not allowed to give, it's not professional to give in something which I don't have any expertise. I never studied, call it
New Age.
holistic, holistic approaches. Okay, so I don't know, for sure I don't know. Maybe I also don't believe in it, but it's a different thing, but I definitely don't know.
It just so happens that I would just point out that Pua.
The couple trust. Yeah. You have the right afterwards to ask him what it is. They told you Advil, okay, you know that Advil is a good solution for Tahara because you heard by the course that the CDC, the American government, CDC, in their website recommends.
You don't trust them much anymore.
When I get to that, let's just a second jump in.
When the Chassan I was speaking earlier, when a young fellow told me a few days ago that the doctor says my wife is fine, I'm the problem. He says the doctor says he thinks I'm the problem. He's like, what should I think now? He's like, he's going nuts. I didn't refer to Taharain, which I should have. I told him 2 days ago. But he said, I'm going to the doctor, which was yesterday. I should call him to see what it was.
So I want to just give this. First of all, this is a slide which is probably the most relevant for Taharas Mishpocha from the whole class. It could be relevant for everyone.
Yeah, I need an Advil. And here you come with the vitamins on the left.
Yes.
But it works. This one works. So sometimes
when people call in the Turner hotline with staining, not being able to make Hefsek Tahara day 7, or by using IUD, or by having staining before for the age of stage, whatever it is, there's a set of 5 tools that we play around with. For the stain, I'm saying like staining, light staining, depending of course a little bit with how heavy it is, how long, and so on. But just in general, thioflavanoid, the first one, the vitamin, yes, we always mention that because it's a vitamin. Number one, it's effective. If it's staining, and why not to try with a vitamin? 3,000 milligram a day. That's for sure helping most people to start. Day 1 of the period, they go till after the mikveh. We say,
which vitamin is that?
It's the thioflavanoid.
Bioflavonoid, it's like.
The next one we have is, of course, the tool of the Advil, which is ibuprofen. 2 months ago, I put it into the newsletter, and some people responded. We have hundreds of doctors, and there's 20,000 people who get this now, so we get every month those doctors.
Your email is 20,000 people.
At the moment. We want to get to 100,000. You'll help us. But
sign me up. I'll be
one doctor responded.
20,001.
One doctor responded. She was very. I'm giving out medications. This is not right. You can't give out so high dose of
the
Advil.
For IUD, they use this. No.
So also for IUDs, and also in general for Hefsek Tahara. If a woman cannot make Hefsek Tahara day 5, it can cause infertility issues. It can cause, of course, everyday Tahara, Harbis Tahara, B'Yisrael. And taking this from day 2, we get day say CDC day 1, but we usually start day 2 in our protocol for 5 days. Now I recommend.
How much Advil?
I recommended the basic one, which is 3 a day.
3 pills.
3. But when she reached out to me, I responded and I sent her the information. But the real protocols is 4 a day. So I get high. They can go up to 800 a day, and it can go even to 7 days. And the newsletter we put out minimum 3 a day for 5 days. That's like the basic what we can do.
Starting from day.
So we start with day 2. Now the next one, which is the most effective one, that's the Lystida. Lystda. Here it's a hexachloroquine. It's the same thing. The Lystida is a medication that we can take. Again, it's approved FDA indicated for this issue. By IUD, they mention it. The chlal for heavy periods. People cannot make Hefsek Tahara on day 5. Okay. So please. Surah Davis.
Yeah.
Touch. Thank you, Hashem.
Yeah. Well, for me.
This was Rabbi Fried.
From Manhattan.
From Manhattan.
Sure.
So when are you available here? How long are you going to be giving this shit? How much time?
Now, I still have time. So, this topic of Taharas Mishpocha, again, we do this probably more than 100 times a day. And we're very glad to do it. There's really no reason every Chus teacher can give this advice. Easy. It takes 5 minutes and less. I don't have to send. He will call. He will not call This is basic information. Again, when you take the course, you'll see it more in detail, but we also put it out, you'll get it, you can look on our website, the old newsletters, it's very clear, the protocols, what we recommend in Terreno.
From last month.
Not the last one before. The Tahara solutions, very clear how we give it, protocols, the numbers, the dosages. There's no secrets. We want everyone to know, the whole public, for sure all experts, doctors, and rabbanim, and Fusen teachers, and college teachers, because we can make a huge impact. Not only Tahara's Mishpucha, but this is related Tahara's Mishpucha with infertility together. And
infertility because missing the
ovulation.
That's what you mean.
That is one.
Or bichlal, that long periods can be an indication for
let's say I don't see a slide on this topic. Maybe I have or not on the one that you brought just now out. But let me just open this. For years, this was a major challenge, right? If women have ovulation before mikveh, was a big reason. What do you call it in Israel? Akarut hilchatit.
Halachic infertility.
Dr. Michael Dahan in Montreal, who was from doctor, 23 years ago came out with a simple breakthrough to use medications from HRT, MHT, which means the estrogen that we use for the woman at the age of 50. And we give it the first 3 days. We call it estrase in America. Estrase, 2 milligram in the morning, 2 milligram in the evening. For 3 days, it pushes up at over 70% of people. Simple solution, no side effects, no risks whatsoever. Every family doctor can give it because there's no risk, no need to follow up with blood tests.
Or a COVID vaccine.
What's that?
A COVID vaccine can also work.
That is true. That is true.
That's almost, is that the first or most common situation when it's infertility is because she's ovulating at the wrong time?
No, we need to look into it. We can see, let's say if someone has a short cycle, day 25, day 24, most likely that's what happens. She has 28 days or 30 days, most likely it's not the case, right?
Right, but
I'm saying
that's usually...
If this doesn't work, of course we can go to letrozole, we can go to clone, to other infertility solutions, which requires usually infertility specialists, and they usually like to do with follow-up and so on. But the strays, there's no need to wait Shona Rishona, there's no need to make even a case out of it. Everyone can take it. What's a big deal? You have a 25-day
ibuprofen, kilo?
No, if you have a 25, if someone has a short cycle, 25 days, there's no point to wait a year, 2 years after Chasna. Take a strays for the first 3 days, 1 in the morning, 1 by night, and Shalom while it's wrong. They have more Tahara, and they have a chance to get pregnant.
A lot of doctors don't know this. I had to teach one of the doctors this thing, and she had no idea.
The what?
This.
The ovulating in the middle of 7 days?
Yeah, no, and how to fix it. This flushed the 8, so she had no idea.
So what is it called?
Estrase. I don't have it in this slide.
Estrase?
Can you spell it? E-S-T-R-A-C-E?
Raise the estrogen, I think.
It's a tiny bit of estrogen.
2 milligrams.
That's what it is. It's a tiny bit of estrogen. Estrase is a estrogen.
The doctor thought I fell off.
But you know what I did when I was invited a few times? It's E-S-T-R-A-C-E.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So, I was invited a few years ago in England to speak to 40 doctors. Most of them were not Jewish doctors. I printed out from the American Medical Journal a research and guidelines of this topic from Dr. Michael Dahan that did research in America, in Israel. I gave him a medical paper. So even if the doctor never heard about it, but it's a medical solution. It's done research. It's not like it says Gilad. It works, it's safe, and we do it everywhere in the world today. Whoever knows. This is another interesting new medication, which is important to know. That is probably for every cooking teacher to know. A lot of people, when they are pregnant, have a difficult time with the nauseous and everything else. Some of them have it in a terrible way. They eventually limit pregnancies. They cannot take it. They becoming dysfunctional.
Sure.
So we used to have different medications like the Lectin, Zafran. Now in the last 2 years, there's a Banagista. Banagista is exactly the same medication, just different dosage a little bit, and different technology. The technology they put in here in this pill is that it can be released half by night, they take it by night, the pill, and the second half goes by day. In the morning, it gets released again. It's way more effective than the old medication, the Lectin. That the company takes now off the shelf in many places. In Israel, they have only Benajustin now. It's not anymore available. It's a little expensive, not so much. I don't remember how much it costs there. But this is the medication that is doing fluid mamish. They don't need to suffer in AG, hyperemesis divertum, to be in the definition and to be in a hospital with intravenous. Everyone who has a little bit nauseous can take an effective
Can
pill.
I do it just for comfort, even if it's not decided?
Exactly. It doesn't have to be in the high end of HG.
There's no risks. Oh.
No risk, no side effects. It's approved to FDA, and they're going to tell people it's not a new one. It's the same exact medication that it's for 15 years already from Canada and America, everywhere.
Let's change them.
So I'll make it now short, but to say that hysteroscopy is a technology which we put in the uterus. It's a video, which Baruch Hashem now in Brooklyn is available in a few places. Mainly the place where we use it at the moment is with Dr. Scott Chudnov in Maimonides. The benefit of this technology is for Taras Mishpucha mainly, that whatever it is unexplained challenges it bleeding, and we don't know. We tried with the vitamins, medication doesn't work.
No.
Instead of now going up heavy medications or to push through with the habit and don't look this that
Camera.
to go put in the camera. Maybe there's a polyp, maybe there's adhesion, maybe there's a fibroid, maybe there's anything else. They can be fixed in an easy way or with a procedure. There's another condition, another medication. Now, one other thing which I believe every Chuzan teacher and college teacher should put in the curriculum. This is really something that for years, whenever I speak to college teachers, Chuzan teachers, I have this vision that one day everyone should teach 5 minutes from the whole Achona about PMS.
Chassan teachers or the chassan?
Both.
The chassan has to know what it is getting into.
No, but the treatment. I know, yeah.
He should know that when his wife is acting with screaming, that it's not Shon bias. It's not, he should not take it as fault, and he should also not scream back.
Of course.
Okay?
That's what I always say. I say in the problem, then I say, in the Ikes, don't scream back. Say Shalai Sandi Isha with more Kavana tomorrow.
He should know what means PMS. That it's impossible that the woman can, even more important, he should know what means PMDD. Every Chuzan needs to know what means PMDD because 15% of our community has PMDD. If we like it or not.
Titus, PMS,
is clinically depression every month when you get a period. So think a second, 15% woman, they might have 6 kids, and blowing up of the family like that, it's not only dysfunctional, it's clinically depression. It might be dangerous, it might be for sure dysfunctional. Now, the good news is that PMDD can be solved with many different solutions, not only with psychotherapy, with SSRI, psychiatric medications, which of course is first line, but what you see here at this vitamin, which is a lot of research in the last few years, that it's a very effective vitamin. The Agnus Castus Vitex, that we also use for other reasons to balance hormones, can be very effective. So that's a vitamin. Of course, a light case of someone just believes in vitamins can take this, but more stronger and more important is to know about the next, this page is the guidelines of the FDA. First line, as you see here, first line treatment can also be Yaz. Yaz is easy for people to take. Because what is Yaz? A birth control. Right? There's over 200 pills. One of them is Yaz. The type of progesterone that Yaz has, together with the type of estrogen, the dosage, got approved to be first line exactly the same as all the psychiatric medications.
Yeah, but that's a birth control.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So a woman who wants to get pregnant
can take that vitamin, which helps actually to get pregnant. But for a woman who is not in the state to get pregnant, if she has PMDD, I'm talking about some serious cases, and it's existing. Some people have.
This wasn't covered in the course. I don't remember this.
This slides are new slides.
Right.
It's in the last few months. The updates that I got.
Was it in the
newsletter? It was.
It was already?
A few times.
Okay.
Last month I put it again. I put it a few months ago because I went 2 weeks ago to a conference. They had again, a lot of research about this. So I put it again in. Which is just because it's a mitzvah of the farsa and people suffer.
Right. If you could just before you go, if a chassan comes over to you and says he's having problems, let's say the fertility, what would be the first aleph? If I'm not the Yoti Dover yet.
I'm going to say like this. Today is introduction But after the course, you will know 100% what to do. You don't need any organization involved.
Really?
You are the organization from A to B.
If he's going to ask me, I'm going to find out.
You should take the course.
Yeah, when's the...
You take the
when,
course.
when's the next
Or
course?
you feel when someone comes up to you right away know which thing, or you ask different specialists, or does he tell you he's going to the doctor and tell me
all
what to
the
do?
Chassanim that I teach, I give them
Guidelines.
guidelines when they
Should contact you.
First I speak that you don't have to rush to the doctor because you're married for half a year.
If everything's beseder.
If everything is beseder, what's pshat nish beseder? So I have a list of things that I tell them. If the periods are irregular, if the periods are too long, are too short. I have a whole list of things.
I just want to highlight, for example, this is a slint. Slint is the favorite. Whoever calls in Tarina for after a baby, you have a heter on roof. We don't give it a heter to use and not to use contraception. We tell them to use slint. Now, why slint? And what's the benefit of slint?
Excuse me.
Sure. Slint has, number one, a higher dosage of progesterone, and it has the same progesterone than he has. So people with the postpartum depression or just anxiety a little bit, they will benefit tremendously with this. And everyone can use, after giving birth, a better progesterone, because unfortunately, thank you, what's your name again? A regular mini pill can actually put women in depression. Some people are sensitive, not everyone. The regular mini pills. And this one is the opposite. Not only it doesn't cause, it actually is the solution. Is the solution. So, for 2 years ago when it came out, I was in Manhattan with a conference. They launched that, the ACO conference. It was $250 for a pack for over a year. That was the price. Now this is $10. There's really no reason.
Changed.
So
What is it for? What is
So
it?
doctors will probably already
knows
give
about
this,
it.
no?
Of course, but you need to ask. Otherwise, whatever you want. You want the old mini pill, they give you the old mini pill.
Yeah, but why, if this info comes out, why isn't this being given to all OBGYNs as the new guidelines that this should be
So
given?
there's no guidelines, number one. When it comes to contraception, for example, we talk about mini pills, there's no any guidelines what to use. Every doctor gives the option
That's
for the woman.
crazy.
Because there's no really reason, only this, only that. So, what I share with you is my insight, that, and of course, what I put in our system, that we should educate people. Given, because I take the sensitivity from Taras and Mishpocha, and this is much less taming. Given that sensitivity of the emotional well-being, we educate people direct towards this one. Now, when a woman is educated, it takes 1 minute to tell, okay, I'll give you a heter to use, but start with the slim. That's all what it is. You don't need to go and lump this progesterone, that progesterone, tahara, right? It's easy. It takes the roof of the Mother Chazan in 1 minute, and he's al derech hamelech.
Alfexi, the new one.
Yeah, that's
I can't believe Alfexi. Yeah.
that's another topic. Let me just conclude and summarize and say like this: whoever doesn't want to take the course, please sign up for the newsletter. That's the minimum, because you can get educated as we go every month. For sure, every Chosn teacher, wherever you bring in the Mochan, should be, the more they get educated, the more tachlis they will help people without even knowing they're helping people. They will have it on them, they'll see it, it's quite clear. We made the newsletter in a language, it should be for Talmud Am as well. So we try to make it in a very simple language, people can pick up every month some tachlis techniques. That's number one. Whoever wants to be a little bit more, of course, they will take the course, they will be able to help in a much, much higher level. But the hotline, that's, as you said, I would say the biggest chus is to get everyone to know about the hotline. Some people will use it, some people will not use it. Some people will, and they will really be stuck. But first of all, they should have the number. They should have the number, they can call in, they call in anonymously, they don't have any busha on one hand. On the other hand, if you one time want to know or want to check what's going on, you can always call. Everything is in the system. Every conversation, just you should know the background. People who answer the hotline, a Haredi woman, is at the moment 58 women who are trained in for a year of training. They answer the hotline, they sit in the office physically in Yerushalayim and Harkat Swim. They put in every conversation in the computer system, so when they call back a second time, I had before a shlucha here in America called me now for a fertility. She wants to, she has a few kids, but She has now a few years of break, and she has problems. She called me on the way I was driving. I said, I'm not focused on coming here. I'm actually in 770, but I'm not focused to speak to you, even if it's day one of the period thing. You need to do probably some medications. I don't want to like mislead people, so I told her, call the hotline. Anyway, I know that 3 weeks ago, I was also not available. I told her then to call the hotline and to make sure that Mrs. Melber, my wife, is the supervisor, she should be involved. So she got then a very good list of work of what to check. She checked everything. She did all the... So I called back. Tell them that you called 3 weeks ago, so they will bring up the whole file. They'll see exactly what was the conversation, all your symptoms and everything, and what was advised to use. You'll tell them what you did and what the results, and they'll tell you now then, again, what to use, which medications now, how to go further. So the hotline, it's not just a cold calling. Everything is saved. Every conversation is
saved based on number. How does it?
Yeah, just a number. There's no names. And the number they called in. So it needs to be the same number, and or if they call different numbers, just give the number whatever they called them last time. So the idea is that it could be, if it's fertility, if it's miscarriages, it's tahara, or other topics. A lot of times it will be more than one phone call, because it will be like a workup or checking and the follow-up and so on. Everything is there. If you have a real complicated case or a sensitive case, you can and you should give out my cell phone. I'm involved with couples every day.
You do.
Very gladly. But I also many times refer them to the hotline. If I don't feel that it requires my attention, or if it's in a week or in a time that I'm not available, I ask them first to use the hotline to update me what they said, because I don't believe in 5-minute conversations. Not in fertility, not even in Taharas Mishpach. At the end of the day, it requires to go into the details to have a real solution. So it's an average in the hotline. The average, it's a 20 minutes conversation. Sometimes, of course, it will be 10 minutes and sometimes 40 minutes. But on average, it's a 20-minute conversation. So you have enough time to hear all the symptoms, what bothers, what you tried already, what did not work, what worked, and so on. And then to offer. And sometimes in conversation, you'll see she does not want to go to doctors, only vitamins. We'll tell her what we know about vitamins that we believe in.
Or they also have lists of doctors to refer to.
Correct.
Different cities, Marshall, in New York. But let's go to this doctor, that.
Correct. They have the referral system where they put in the country, and then the specialty, or in the city. Through many ways they can get to the information.
Do they also have? I'm just wondering. Do you ever have like conferences around here so the chassan teachers or people on the ground could get to know certain doctors so they feel confident that...
We just actually did a few months ago three such conferences, one in Bar Park, one in
because that's the most helpful. I'm saying if the chassan teachers or the rabbanim say, we know this doctor, he tells us this, so then...
True, that's why we brought these doctors. We brought Dr. Josh Klein, Dr. Scott Chudinoff, another one in Lakewood, who's the Harvard Medical Director of IVF. The idea is that people should know, get to know the local doctors and the expert doctors. I also, in the newsletter, a lot of times I put in Mace Clinic this month.
Who's who?
I mentioned for the female, I mentioned that the laser treatment for vulvodynia was, but this last conference mentioned last week, the double-blind research, the effectiveness of the laser treatment for vulvodynia, for pain, intimacy pain for female. So I mentioned it's available in New York by Mace Clinic. It's the only place in New York it's available. So the idea is really to be, the more people can
How
do it,
effective?
it's more than 60% effective, which is a lot. Because otherwise, unfortunately, many people end up going to the Dr. Goldstein, paying $18,000 cash, which people don't have, and it's aggressive, painful. The recovery is a month of recovery. It should be the last option. And of course, it's effective. But it's very expensive, very difficult physically, the recovery. So we should always try first with the laser. So this is basically, of course, I can see the collaboration with the Mechan is number one, that we can work, that we can give out the numbers to every chosn. Number two, we want all the chosn teachers to be signed up with the newsletter, to be in touch directly as well. They can call me, everyone can have my cell, and we watch them serve as a back office for many rabbanim, many chosn teachers, that whenever they have a complicated case, they want me to call me very, very gladly. So every chosn teacher for sure can definitely always call me. I'm available. I try, at least I try the same day, if not the day after.
When's next?
When's the next training?
So the next training will be after Pesach.
During the summer?
It should just This is everything
Goldman.
Goldman. I'm not really involved usually with not with the setup, not with most of the practical everything is a him, but I know also of course